I just thought my mental health is being affected by things that are going on in the workplace, and
Some of us just cannot take a break.
all that was rushed through.
In order for you to go into mental health solutions and get that training, what inspired you to start Aquarius?
It was because of experiences that I was suffering in the workplace when I came out of my last place of employment, which was in a completely different sector. I just thought my mental health is being affected by things that are going on in the workplace, and so I want to go and put these things right in workplaces. I want to do something about it and educate people.
How was your mental health affected in the previous place of work? And was the previous place of work somewhere corporate?
The previous place of work was in the print industry, so I'd spent 40 years in the print industry in probably about 5 different employments, and 4 of them ended in redundancy, and one was I just had to get out of it because it was a pressure cooker environment. So I just felt that my mental health, I was kind of living with general anxiety disorder and depression, which wasn't helped by an incident that I went through back in May 2009, which I'm sure we'll cover shortly.
I see.
So it was difficult. It became high functioning depression, for sake of a better word, and high functioning anxiety. And they're not actually diagnoses as such. It just means you've been diagnosed with depression or GAD, but because you've got things to do in your life and a job to do and money to earn, then you just do it. So you're seen as high functioning, where people think, oh, there's nothing wrong with Brian.
You can't take a break. Some of us just cannot take a break. That's it.
I was offered a 2-week break back in 2011 and just said, Brian, you can have 2 weeks off fully paid. It doesn't have to come from your annual leave. And I thought to myself, no, because if I take 2 weeks out of here, you won't see me again. And I wasn't in a position, 13, 14 years ago to do anything apart from what I knew, like the print industry.
I see. And why the name?
Aquarius is my birth sign. I was born in January. I made 20 odd years ago. I used to do a little bit of videoing, so I was Aquarius videos. So I named it. It's a name that I pick every time, and of course, if there's an A to Z, then I'm up there at the top with the A's, aren't I?
That's true. It's a good name too. Can you take us back to the beginning and what first drew you to mental health work?
I think if I was to say the beginning would probably where I had a life-challenging situation back in May 2009 when I had a mini stroke in the workplace. And I was out of work for about 3 hours that morning, and I went back to work, which is probably the worst thing I could have done because I didn't take any kind of rehabilitation. It was just I was released from A&E and I went back to work. 50% of people that have any kind of stroke will suffer from depression, and I've become one of that 50%. And then of course you have the anxieties like, am I doing my job properly? Did I do this? Did I do that? Because the stroke affected my memory and concentration. So I was kind of double guessing everything. Had I done this? If anything went wrong, I'd blame me before I checked out to see whether it was my fault
Can
or
I
not.
ask, on that day, why did you go back to work? Why would you even consider it to go back to work?
Because it affects your mind, it affects your orientation, and once I got the feeling come back in my right arm, I actually felt okay. There's nothing physically wrong with me that stopped me going back and sitting at my desk and doing some of the tasks that were just kind of bespoke to me in that employment.
So physically, you were well, but how were you feeling?
I'd say there's an element of confusion as to what was going on, maybe. I mean, I did lose some memory and concentration, and that still kind of features now sometimes. But I felt, yeah, I can go back to work. I'm okay. I can sit there. I can type. I can read the screen. I can pick the phone up. So, what happened to me didn't have any major effect on the things that I just needed to do that day, and for the next few days, weeks and months.
So you never at any point felt like, after a stroke, I don't feel better, I need to have a break.
No. I think it's like the stigma that surrounds mental health, the stigma around my physical health. Like, well, I didn't want to go to the hospital in case I was kept in, but I was told, yeah, you're being taken to the hospital, you need checking over. But I felt like a recovery on the way to the hospital. As I was being driven to the hospital, I kind of felt this warmth down my right side, and my right arm was kind of then functioning again. So when I got to the hospital and the nurses like touching, squeeze my fists and that, then I could do it. And all they could assume was that that is what happened to me.
And when did you get the idea, following this event, to actually start training in mental health? And also, obviously, looking after your own mental health?
Well, for Aquarius, it would have been early 2019, which was within weeks or months of being redundant for the final time. But 3 years earlier, I started being a mentor from Winding Bexley. And then I kind of went on a mental health training course to understand mental health. And then I went on the youth mental health training course just as a delegate. But then I realised, like in 2019, that that's what I needed to do. I needed to become an instructor. So it was a 3-day training course, and that was after doing a level 3 certificate or award in education and training, because you need an education award before you can get an instructor's certificate. So all that was rushed through, a lot of cramming.
What made you know for sure that this is what you have to do? You need to become an instructor. What made you know for sure? Was it that you would now work for yourself, so you wouldn't have the stress of working for someone else? Was it that you feel closeness to mental health issues and you feel like you understand it? You feel like you could pass the knowledge on? What was it?
It's a great big mix of that. I mean, one thing I knew, that I did not want to go back into the print industry because it is a declining industry. I didn't want to have another redundancy. I mean, my last redundancy was on my 59th birthday. That was a day of my choosing. I knew it was going to be that week, and I said, well, can it be Wednesday, whatever the 24th of January was that month, because I thought that's the day I want my life to change. I want this to stop and something else to start. I couldn't go into any other sector at 59 years old. So I just thought, well, I need to be doing something. I need to be learning, I need to be training, I need to develop my kind of knowledge on things. And then come out of my shell and be able to do this, because I've kind of got a bit of a social anxiety disorder.
So that's really what I'm asking, because in order for you to go into mental health solutions and get that training, you need to at least, it's not only because it was a sector that you could choose, that was available to you because of your, age, because you couldn't get into other things. There needs to be some connection between who you are as a person and choosing mental health solutions, I feel. So why mental health?
Because I was struggling with my mental health. Purely that. And I could see why, it affects so many people in various sectors and workplaces. it was a situation where the people that I worked for, it was a family business, not my family, but a family business where people within that family that were running the company, that they had some mental health problems. They were seeing clinicians, they were on medication. But I think for them, this mental health stress element just kind of revolved around them and not the people that were working there. So I don't think they really see the pressure that people were being put under and how it affected people. So it was just clear in my mind that's something I wanted to do. I will say that 2 days after I had that redundancy, I was in Tunbridge or Sevenoaks doing a mental health course, to on the receiving end of one. And the young lady that sat next to me, she'd actually done some mentoring and coaching, and she said, "Well, Brian, I can help you."
Okay.
And we had a few sessions together, and she said that, I think this is what you should be doing. So I was kind of pushed into the direction that I wanted to go into. So she was a major part.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it takes someone else to kind of reveal to us what's best for us to be doing.
Well, she left the room in tears because there was some sensitive material, and the two instructors that day didn't realise that she'd left the room. So I went out of the room to find her. I could hear her sobbing in the ladies' toilet. So I waited till she came out and we sat down and had a chat. And I think she realised from that point that this could be my vocation.
Going through your website, I kind of noticed that there is a strong focus on inclusive and person-centered care.
Yeah.
Where did that philosophy come from for you?
I think it has to be person-centered. Mental health is different for everyone. I know there's about 250 plus different mental health conditions. There's 8 billion people in the world, and you could get a room full of people suffering from depression. They could all be different. They could all have different signs or symptoms, and they've all got different finances, social connections, health, employment. So it has to be person-centered. It's not like there's a one-size-fits-all as far as someone having a mental health diagnosis.
I just cannot imagine it as anything else in her. I can only imagine, mental health as person-centered.
I think person-centered is more one-to-one, working in very small groups, because not everyone with a mental health problem wants to hear about other people's problems. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at PTSD and soldiers coming back from some kind of military action, they all went through exactly the same thing at the same time, same intensity. So that they're socially connected and they can actually talk and help each other. But if you have a group of people that are victims of domestic violence, they really don't want to hear about what the other person went through.
Because it's very triggering, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, domestic violence can leave you with severe PTSD.
Yeah, often complex PTSD.
Starting something like this takes courage. What was the biggest challenge you faced in building Aquarius?
That the biggest challenge was starting something from completely nothing. As an insecure person, the biggest frightening move I could make was to work for myself and be responsible for my own income, where I'd always had the safety of being paid at the end of the month for like 40 years. So it did make me think. Even on the way to, it was like a new enterprise allowance scheme, and I had the final meeting and I had to take down my projected earnings and my outgoings, and I obviously had absolutely no idea what my new earnings were going to be, but I knew what my monthly outgoings would be. And I must admit, I probably had a suicidal ideation on the way to that meeting, thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, then, I might not be around much longer, because this is the one thing now that I have to do. I have to do it.
Yes.
I have to succeed, because if not, I don't know. There's nothing else I want to do.
And have you succeeded?
I think I have. Yeah, I mean, over the last 5.5 years now, I've delivered over 240 courses,
Wow.
plus presentations, etc. And with the courses, I've had over 1,350 delegates that have passed, so 100% pass rate on every one that I've taught. So yeah, I think I've succeeded, which is why I'm going to push on. I was 65 in January, so this year coming 66, and am I going to retire? No, not fully, because I can't. I would worry about what would happen to me if I stopped doing what I wanted to do.
Yes, I do understand.
I have to have some kind of self-value. I don't know why. First child syndrome maybe, insecure childhood maybe, but I have to prove myself, even if it's only to me. But I've got some good people around me that support me.
I think most of us feel this way, that we need to have some sort of self-validation and value. And I guess it's better to look for it within yourself and from yourself. It's better than looking for it, out there and having people. Of course, having people's validation is a very good thing, but I guess you being aware of your own self-worth is the strongest place to be.
Yeah, it works for me when I'm doing well and getting results. Hence, I know how many courses and people, because I set myself targets. Next target 250 courses, next target 1,400 delegates of this one particular course.
Excellent. What are some of the most frequent topics that come up in your trainings?
There's certain generic topics that are covered all the time, but I would have to say that my interest would be around suicide awareness and having an awareness of PTSD and personality disorders. So things that feature people having psychotic episodes. It's interesting. It's a big area. I mean, with suicide awareness, I've taken it in the schools, colleges and doctors' surgeries. And doctors have to be reminded that there is a thing out there, opioid addictions, that when they're handing out repeat prescriptions of painkillers, codeine and that, the person they're giving them to might just become addicted to them.
Why do you think people to begin with turn to substance misuse and abuse?
They're looking for comfort. It's like being hugged by a bottle of drink, isn't it? Often substance misuse is someone's looking for short-term comfort for something that's going to negatively affect them in the long term. But when they're taking the substance, it's one more drink, one more fag, one more shot in the arm. That's not going to harm them. That's going to momentarily make them feel better. But if you add it to the hundreds or thousands that they've already had, or the hundreds and thousands more that they will take, it's all part of this self-destruction. They will have negative outcomes in the long term. Losing job, losing family, bad finances, poor health. If it's an upbringing which features any kind of abuse or neglect, this is where substances will bring the comfort that they haven't had from parents, friends, siblings, etc.
And you, as providing mental health solutions, let's say, how would you talk about this topic and what are the solutions you would suggest?
I guess the biggest solution really would be to make people aware that suicide is a preventable death. Sometimes it's unavoidable. If someone wants to go and end their life without reaching out for help, they will. But I always think if I'm in a conversation with someone, then that's the first step on the ladder for them to get some help. It is preventable, just most people want to live, but live without their problems. They just want their problems to disappear, but they don't always know how to get help for those problems. I'd rather talk to someone who is suicidal rather than someone that's self-harming or have got an eating disorder, because suicide is an action, it's something that hasn't happened yet and you can prevent it from happening. If you're trying to talk to someone that's self-harm or got an eating disorder, this is habitual, it's something that could have been going on for months or years, and it's very difficult to try and intervene and talk to someone to try and get that help. So I think there are solutions around people that are feeling suicidal.
Do you believe when it comes to a person's life, some problems can be dealt with? But do you believe that when it comes to a person's life, it is their choice what to do with it?
Choice is a strong word, because no one kind of grows up with the choice of the thought that I want to end my life or I want to be an addict one day. It gets to the point where there are no choices, so that is the route that's taken. You know, everything else has just been diminished from their minds, and they see that as the only outcome.
way out.
So at that point there isn't a chance, it's the one escape route they've got
Yes, it feels like there is no choice.
left.
Really.
Yeah, because people realise sometimes they might have a problem which cannot be cured. If someone's got an illness or something which they're going to die from, or some inoperable tumour, then maybe, then they will see suicide as the only option, because life is not going to improve for that people. So now you've got this assisted dying thing that's coming up, haven't you?
Yes.
So, but I think if you're in a conversation with someone, it's because they really are looking for a way out, or hoping there's a way out.
Have you done any presentations in care homes?
I've done safeguarding courses in care homes.
Okay.
Obviously, I might mention suicide because it's not normally mentioned in the actual course material, but there has to be an awareness that when there's elements of loneliness, anxiety and depression, that obviously suicide is often a resultant of those things, primarily depression.
I see.
The figures get higher. I mean, the highest suicide rate is normally 50 or 54, then it tails off down to the 70s, and in the 80s and 90s year olds it picks up again.
Nice.
Because people they're lonely, they're isolated, they've lost their lifetime partners, they've got nothing to live for. Plus they're becoming weaker, more frail, they might be suffering from dementia, they might not get the care package they need, so they can't see the point of living.
What other mental health struggles, in your knowledge and experience, do older people struggle with?
A lot of anxiety and depression. Often depression when it's comorbid with some physical illness. So anxiety is about, can they perform what they need to? Will they get help? Maybe anxiety is about doing things, falling in home, etc. And then the anxiety turn into depression, because then there's the realisation that something may happen, that they're approaching the end of their life, they're losing the ability to do things they used to do easily.
Do you know what kind of help is available to them? What kind of support, mental health support is available?
I know of some resources. I mean, there's Alzheimer's UK, there's Age UK, there's big network of carers.
Support is available.
Yeah, support is available. It's just whether the support network is aware of such things as anxiety and depression. And of course, every person a carer goes to see, that maybe the attention for that person has to be person-centered, because they're not going to be the same as the last person I just spent half an hour with.
That's very true. Now, if you could change one thing about the way mental health is understood in the UK, what would it be?
I think initially I'd have to say it needs implementing in schools and workplaces. I think having trained mental health ambassadors or champions or first aiders in every workplace is essential, especially with 1 in 6 people every week having some kind of work-related anxiety, stress and depression. 1 in 4 people every year. So, and schools, it could be 1 in 4 students now. Before COVID it was 1 in 9, 1 in 10. COVID brought about a lot of anxiety in social situations like school.
My little one is about to join the schools, the education system, let's say.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is about social skills, and working together and all that, and like being a part of society. But none of it is about feeling well, as in themselves.
Mentally well. Mentally well,
Yes,
emotionally.
that's what I mean. It's not only about joining a society, it's also about who you are and how healthy you are as a person when you join the society you're about to join. It's about well-being as well. And I just don't understand how this is not like top priority.
It's becoming more of a priority, but how far it is away from being the top priority, I've got no idea. I mean, schools do this PSHE, don't they? This personal, social and health, economic kind of education. And, across the 4 or 5 key stages in education, it can be structured to be appropriate to the age of the student he's talking to. It's learning what your emotions are and how you can regulate your emotions, and realising that it's quite normal to have emotions. It's how you react to things, isn't it? The biggest thing I think any parent can do is to encourage their child to talk when there's a problem, and they have to listen, active listening.
Yes.
Because when you get to a certain age, teenage times, then often if parents aren't listening to the children, this is often when things such as self-harming can occur, because self-harming is normally when someone seeks kind of pain, physical pain, to relieve emotional and psychological pain, because this brief moment is exhilarating and euphoric. And sometimes that's happened because they haven't been able to talk to their parents and say, like, Mum, Dad, can I have a word with you? They find something that they can control their emotions themselves, rather than talking to a parent who might be able to help.
When they're teenagers, the social circle is of paramount importance.
Yeah.
The friends. However, from what I understand, the family, the parents' opinion, the parents' view of the child is still the most important thing in their life.
Yes.
And in building their identity, they will still look to communicate with you, probably in a different way than they used to, not such a direct way, but they still need this communication. They need this affirmation.
Yeah, communication's important at all levels, from the early stage upwards. If young people can't communicate with their parents, the people that are at home with, the people that are responsible for them.
How do you take care of your own well-being? while caring for others.
That is difficult because I tell most people that I don't. I kind of describe myself as a sponge. I soak up so much that sometimes I feel saturated, and I have to realise that, which I do. And then I just think I have to squeeze or wring myself out and then be ready for the next onslaught. But I've got some good people around me that I can talk to any time of day or night, to be honest. And a couple of interests like football, photography helps me outside. But then I meet people that need talking to. I think I'm going to look after myself by continuing doing what I do at a level that I can sensibly do without burning out. So more local things, more online things, maybe YouTube channel possibly, rather than doing 3 or 4 hour drives to do a day's work and then a 3 or 4 hour drive back home. Because I do go wherever I need it. So from Kent, it can be Dorset, it can be the West Midlands, it can be Sheffield, it can be East Anglia. You know, if I'm needed, I think, yeah, I'll do that. I'll offer to do that job. So I've got to pull that back in a bit. I've got to refine my mailing list and take the North East and the North West out a bit, and Northern Ireland.
Yes.
So yeah, I've got to kind of find my work in a closer proximity to Kent.
What would you say to someone thinking about doing this work or starting something of their own in the mental health
I'd say
space?
100% do it. I was in the same industry for 40 years because I thought it's all I know. It's like out the frying pan into the fire. If you kind of make a jump, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but it is. I've found that. If there's something you want to do and you can do it, I'd say make every effort to do it. Otherwise, you never know, do you?
Yeah.
I didn't know what I'd be doing, what I would achieve, but I'm happy with everything. And like I said earlier when we were chatting, sometimes I feel like I'm not enough, and that's not derogatory to me. It's me thinking there's still things that I can do. Maybe learn a little bit more about this, about, you know, trauma.
There's always more to learn, isn't there? There's always more.
Yeah.
More space to grow, more things to learn, more life to experience. There's always more. It's infinite.
Yeah, I mean, over the last few years I've studied substance abuse, more kind of connections between suicide and self-harm. I've looked at criminology. I've done like a level 3 in understanding autism. So yeah, there's more to come. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Level 2 counselling skills. Will I go to level 3? Probably, but maybe not level 4, because the amount of time and money, and by the time I've done that, I thought, well, I'm too old to be a counsellor now.
Yeah.
So I want the knowledge. I do supervision, well, in schools with teachers. Some mentoring and motivation, using counselling skills as the approach.
Is there anything you want to say to close this conversation?
I'd say the biggest thing really is for people to take a deeper look at their self, the emotions, maybe the thoughts that they're having. Try and have an understanding why and reach out and get help. I know it's difficult. There's a lot of people, there's not enough resources, but you know, if you don't try and get help, I'd say talking about it is key. I tell people if they can talk to you and talk to me, they should be able to talk to a GP. And if I'm completely honest with their GP, they get an honest diagnosis. And that diagnosis might involve treatment, like medication and therapy. 95% of therapy is probably talking therapy. So if you can't talk, it's just going to stay internalised, isn't it?
Thank you so much for coming in today, Brian.
It's an absolute pleasure, Angelique.
Thank you. It was a very good conversation.